In this video, we're going to walk through a step-by-step guide on small business tax preparation, whether you're using a CPA or filing your entrepreneur taxes yourself. Listen, filing taxes for small business can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. It is as simple as knowing what information to provide to your tax preparer or your tax preparation software. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell for more entrepreneur advice and small business tips. Okay, so we are going to dive into the tax preparation checklist that I provide to my business coaching clients. You can pause this video as often as needed to copy the information, or you can get a printable version for just $8 using the link in the description. Now, before we get started, I want you to understand that when you're dealing with business taxes for LLC or filing taxes as a sole proprietor, the easiest thing to do is look at your small business bookkeeping records to find all the small business tax deductions you can claim on your tax return. This is what's going to help you get the biggest tax refund possible. But if you're behind on your bookkeeping, that's no problem. We will address how to handle that situation in this video as well. Also, don't worry, because the way that I discuss small business taxes explained and bookkeeping basics is simplified into steps that are easy to understand with small business taxes for beginners and bookkeeping for beginners. All right, so let's dive in. This is the Busy Entrepreneur's Simple Guide to Taxes workbook. And as we go through this, I'm going to zoom in actually. Since you're watching this on a video, you may be pausing, copying things down. I want it to be as easy as possible for you. So the first thing that I want to mention is that this information is not intended as tax advice. I'm not a certified tax professional. This is not tax advice. But what the purpose is that I want you to be able to be equipped, because sometimes your CPA is not as forthcoming with the information that you need to have, or they talk in a way that's really confusing because it's on such a high level. So this information is to be used in conjunction with your CPA, with your tax preparer, or with your tax software, okay? So the first thing, I'm going to go through this part really fast because this is in regards to your personal tax return. And I really want to talk with you more in depth on the business side of it. So I have a video that will describe whether you need to file a separate tax return for your business, or whether you're just going to put this information on your personal tax return. So I'll link to that video in the description, or you can click on that video on the screen. So real quick, for the personal side, you just need to have your personal information like your name, your date of birth, your social security number, your driver's license. If you're using a new tax preparer, they're going to want 2 years of your tax return. Or if you're using this for filing your own taxes, it can be helpful to have last year's tax return just so you can kind of refer back to the information and you don't have to look it back up. And then, of course, you'll need your information for your refund to be direct deposited, or a payment to be taken out automatically. So here's just a quick checklist. You can pause it, write down these things for the different type of information that your tax preparer or your software is going to be looking for, and it'll pull information from these different forms. All right, this will either come from your employer, from a company that's paying you income for doing work for them or generating sales for them, or it'll be things that you're getting from like your bank, your investment mutual funds, things like that, where you're getting interest and such. So again, you can pause it, write those things down. And then you want to go through for if you are able to have an itemized tax deduction, education expenses, homeowner expenses, charitable contributions, things like that. All right. Now we get into the business information. And this is what's the most important thing when it comes to filing your taxes for your small business taxes LLC, or your taxes for just your sole proprietorship. So that means you have a business that is not set up with an LLC. Now, what you're going to want is to have your income and expense tracker. This is your bookkeeping record. So it could be Excel, it could be Quicken, it could be Google Sheets. It could be, if you're old school, doing it on paper. It might even just be a box of statements and receipts, which if that's your situation, oh my gosh, please leave me a comment below because I've got things to help you with that. Then you're also going to want to have your account statements, your credit card statements, receipts for business expenses, your mileage log, and your home office expenses. That's if you qualify for this. So this is going to be things like your home's utilities, electric bill, water bill, things like that, real estate taxes, homeowners insurance, all those different things. Okay. Then you're going to actually fill out your information. This is name, social, all of that. Again, this comes back to the personal tax return, so you can just pause, copy this information down, or like I said, you can download this as a printable version just for $8, and it'll make your life so much easier. So questions about your dependents, questions about your income, and let's get on down to, okay, this is things about your investments, education expenses, medical. Now, what's really cool is with the mileage tracker that my students use in the 5-minute bookkeeping course is the medical and dental expenses as well as charitable mileage. All of those mileage things are tracked inside that bookkeeping tracker, so you don't need to have something separate. But also I want to mention with the medical and the dental expenses, if your business is set up the right way, then you can actually claim these as a business tax deduction rather than as a personal tax deduction, which is really helpful because so many people are not able to take the itemized tax deduction now that the limits for that, for the standard deduction, has been raised up so much. But that doesn't mean you can't take it as a business tax deduction. So you can check out some videos that I have on that. I also discuss it in the 5-minute bookkeeping course, or you can ask your tax preparer for advice on how you can qualify for it, because you can't just write it off willy-nilly. There are actual things that you need to do in order to make your medical and dental expenses become an actual business tax deduction. Then let's come on down. This is the ultimate tax deduction cheat sheet that I provide free on my website. So you can grab that, then you don't have to waste time pausing and writing it down. But now we come to the important stuff. This is things for your business taxes. Whether you are filing a separate tax return or you're filing your business taxes on your personal tax return, you want to make sure that you are documenting any unreported income. So when we were scrolling through above, there were places for like a 1099 miscellaneous, 1099K. Those are different forms that businesses will send you in order to show for your tax return what income you have received as a business. Now, there is going to be times where you're not getting that information, and you just need to be able to notate down all of your income that has not been reported on something like a 1099. Now, what I recommend to my students is that in your bookkeeping records, you are documenting any time that you are receiving money. So anytime that there is a deposit in your account, whether it's a cash deposit, a payment by check, it's a direct deposit that maybe Stripe or PayPal has sent you, or the company that you are generating sales through, anytime a deposit comes into your account, you want to document that down as your income. That way, you're making sure you're never missing anything for taxes in case of an audit. Now, if you have not been recording that in your bookkeeping, this is a great place where you can just notate down each individual time that you have earned income. You can put your amounts down. And this is going to allow you to total up your income if your bookkeeping records aren't automatically totaling it for you. Then we come down to the expenses. So any type of advertising expenses that you have incurred. This could be things like having a website, it could be using an email marketing system, it could be putting ads online or in newspapers, anything like that. Even business cards qualify. This is where you want to document all of the information down if, again, it's not already automatically calculated in your bookkeeping records. And this will help you. You can go through your bank statements, you can go through your credit card statements and document anytime that you're seeing a transaction for this type of category. And remember, grab that free ultimate tax deduction cheat sheet so that you are able to figure out multiple different types of expenses that fall into the advertising category, that falls into the bank fee category, commissions and fees paid. This would be, so like commissions and fees that are paid would be if you're paying somebody else to do work for you that's incurring sales, where they're getting a portion of the commission. There may be contract labor that you've hired. There may be insurance that you are using. So for example, we have real estate investments where we purchase the property and we flip it. So we own it for just a few weeks or a few months, update it, and then we sell it at a higher price. Well, for that type of investment, we have to have a special type of insurance on it so that if anything were to happen to the real estate property while it's in our possession, we're not out that money. So this type of insurance would fall into this particular category. And let me know in the comments if you've ever used a checklist to help you find tax write-offs for self-employed when filing your small business taxes, LLC, or sole proprietorship. And if you haven't, grab that ultimate tax deduction cheat sheet. Make sure to pause this video and write all this information down to create your own checklist, or grab the printable version for this as well. Now we come down where there's things like health insurance. Health insurance isn't always tax deductible, but you want to document this down so that your tax preparer can sit there and guide you and say, okay, this in your situation, this wouldn't be a tax deduction, or yes, it would qualify, and maybe you would have never thought to document it, or your tax preparer may not have asked you for it. So just a quick bit of information. If you have a job and your employer is paying for your health insurance for you, or if you're paying for health insurance through your paycheck where the payment is taken out pre-tax, that's not going to count as a tax deduction either, because you're not being taxed on that amount of money. Does that make sense? So when it's taken out of a paycheck, they take it out typically before taxes are applied. So you're already getting a tax deduction essentially for that. Then you've got interest. This would be like a mortgage on, say you have a business office or a property that you own that your business is utilizing, and you have a mortgage on that. There's also interest for things like if you have a credit card and you are not paying that balance off every single month, then the interest that you are paying on that credit card, guess what? That can be tax deductible. Then you have professional services. Again, check out that cheat sheet for more details on different examples. Professional services like tax and accounting, that's going to be more things like if you're using software like, say, TurboTax to file your own taxes, or you're using a CPA, or you're using Quicken to do a accounting software for your business to do your bookkeeping. Then you've got office expenses. This can be different software that you have. This can be cleaning services for your office. You've got supplies, things like printer paper, printer ink, ink pens, all that type of stuff. Again, you're going to write all of those expenses down, get the amount, check mark them to know that, yes, you have records of this, you've got a receipt of this. Then you've got travel, things like lodging and transportation. And you want to make sure that with travel, you're documenting the meals separately because, interestingly enough, your meals are not going to have a 100% tax deduction rate. So that's why we need to track the meals separately from things like lodging and transportation. Then you have rent for machinery and equipment, rent for building, repair and maintenance. This is non-vehicle related. So this could be repairs and maintenance on the property that you are working out of. It could be repairs and maintenance on equipment that you have, just different things like that. Wages, if you are paying anybody wages, whether that is yourself, a family member, or a non-relative who is working for you. Then, of course, we've got taxes for property, taxes for payroll, taxes for sales, license and fees, utilities. Again, this is not going to be your personal residence because that falls into the home office expense if you qualify for it. You'll have telephone, so your cell phone. If you have a fax line, that's going to come down here. Printing costs, postage, business education and coaching. There's seminars and trainings. Oh, and this is great to know. So things like business education, coaching, seminars, and training. I want you to understand that big corporations have line items for these specific things. They have it so that their employees can have continuing education to improve their skills for the business. The intent is so that the business can become more profitable time after time, year after year. And so the government actually wants to reward you for having you yourself as the business owner or your employees go through business education, coaching, seminars, training, getting books that's going to help them improve their skills as a business owner or as a successful business. So understand that anytime you're spending money to help you, whether that is getting programs like my 5-minute bookkeeping course, buying books that helps you with bookkeeping, that helps you with tax prep, that helps you with sales and marketing, that helps you with goal setting even. There's a variety of different things that can qualify as a business expense when it comes to business education, coaching, seminars, and training. So all you need to really focus on is making sure that you're documenting the business purpose of that expense. So if you're going to a training program or a seminar, going through coaching, you just need to specify this is how that program is specifically going to help me improve my business skills. And then that will help you be able to claim that as a tax deduction. There's also things like customer gifts and incentives that you can take as a deduction on your taxes. You want to watch your internet fees, marketing supplies and expenses, web hosting fees. So you can include the web hosting fees in your advertising, or you can pull that out separately. It just kind of depends on your individual tax preparer, because as I talked about in other videos, each CPA, each tax preparer, each auditor, each business owner interprets the tax law differently. And so they like to separate out the different tax deductions and the different business expenses in a different way. So what I've done is over the years, I've used a variety of different CPAs, tax preparers, even tax preparation software when I was filing taxes myself. I've used a variety of them, and I've gone through and looked at the different information that I needed to gather for them and tried to compile that all in this one document so that you don't have to go back and redo any of the work. I want you to be able to just do this one time. So if there's any dues or subscription fees that you have to pay, whether that's being a part of a business organization, whether it's being a affiliate for a company, it can be getting magazine subscriptions, all different things fall into that. Permits and fees for owning a business or for being able to have sales or be able to have rental property. There's different permits and fees that you may run into. There's also promotional expenses, recruiting expenses, so many things, payment processing fees. Basically, if you have an expense coming out of your business account and it is helping your business, you want to make sure you are deducting it. And then, of course, there's just different other expenses. And I've got this listed more than once because you want to group similar items together. Remember, your tax preparer is going to be separating out the general description of what those other expenses are. Okay, then for your business, you're going to be listing out the business owner name. That's whether it's you, your spouse, you might have a partnership where it's non-related members. If you have an actual business name, so if you filed like an LLC or you're just using a fictitious name, you'll list that here. If you have a tax ID number, so it will be the tax ID number of the main business owner or the main tax filer. And you may have a separate tax ID number that you got through the IRS. You want to have a description of the products or services that your business offers. And the reason is because when filing taxes, you're going to actually specify a description of what your business sells. You need the business address. Is it legally formed as an LLC? Yes or no. The type, if it's an individual or a sole proprietorship. And remember, this is discussed in a separate YouTube video. Then we have business income. You want your gross business sales. So what we're doing here is we're taking all of those check boxes that we did up above. We're adding them up to get your total number. So your gross business sales would come from that income line item. If you have anybody who has done a return and you've had to refund them, you can list that here. If there's other income, and then all of those different tax deduction categories that we listed out, get those totals, list them all here. All of those that we did before, we're getting that all totaled up so that you do not have to go through and add those things up again later. Then you're going to have your vehicle expenses. So this will be mileage information, the make and model of the vehicles, the date you began using it, the business miles, medical miles, charitable miles, and total miles. So hopefully you have been tracking those. Mileage is something that is highly audited. You do not need to be afraid to take those deductions as long as you have properly documented them. I do have a video that talks specifically about how to document mileage, so make sure to watch that video here. And then if you're using the standard deduction for mileage, you don't need to fill anything else out. But if you're using your actual expenses for deducting mileage, then you're going to want to get your total operating expenses, things like gas, oil, repairs, insurance for your vehicles, parking fees and tolls. This is just for when you are using your vehicle for business use. If any of the parking fees or tolls are coming due to a personal trip that you have made, then those aren't going to count, obviously, as a business tax deduction. But remember, you don't need to worry about your operating expenses or your parking fees and tolls if you're just using the standard mileage deduction, because what they're doing is they're giving you a general deduction based on your mileage that's supposed to help cover these different expenses without you having to track everything. Then we get into the business use of your home. You're going to need to notate your home office area. This is the area that is used for strictly used for your home office. So technically, if you are using an area for home office and for personal usage, then you should not be counting that in your home office square footage. Then you need the total area of your home, the square footage. Get that listed over here, because that percentage, that ratio, is what is going to determine the amount that you can deduct for your personal residence mortgage interest, the real estate taxes for your personal residence, your homeowner's insurance, repairs and maintenance that you've done to your house. And this is for your whole house, not just the home office area. For the utilities of your personal residence, you'll want to notate when you originally purchased your home, what the cost was for it, the date that you purchased the home, and any other expenses that you may be incurring, such as your security expenses, your HOA, which is homeowners association, landscaping bills, yard maintenance, different things like that. And then you'll want to list out any business assets that you have acquired. So just to give you some examples, computer, equipment, furniture, you want the description of what was purchased, the date that it was purchased, and the cost. These things will likely be depreciated. And so that's why we need the date that it was purchased, the cost, because when it's depreciated, it's over the course of multiple years, depending on what type of asset was purchased. And then if you are selling goods or products and you are keeping an inventory of those, or you are producing those, you are creating them yourselves, then you want to have inventory that you had on January 1st, the goods that you were purchased, less the items that you used for personal use, less the inventory that was left on December 31st, production costs, labor, material and supplies, other product cost. So remember, this is only if you're selling goods and products and you are either keeping an inventory or you are producing them yourself. All right, so that's everything that you need to have as far as compiled information for your tax preparer or your tax preparation software. But what I want you to keep in mind is you want to set up systems for success so that next year at tax season, this becomes very easy. You don't want to have to spend days or weeks trying to compile this information. You want to be able to have a system in place so that information is already documented and totaled up for you when December 31st comes around. So what you want to do is you want to track daily or weekly your income and your expenses. You want to track your tax deductions. You want to track your mileage and any business activity like your meetings, your appointments, things like that. And do this on a daily or weekly basis, because this really comes down to if you are wanting to make tax season a breeze, number one, if your bookkeeping system is tracking this information for you automatically. So like my 5-minute bookkeeping students, they get spreadsheets that will total up their tax deductions for the year automatically for them. All they're having to do is they're having to go in and put in what their income was, what their expenses were, and they are able to see that on their online banking or their bank statements or credit card statements, things like that. So it becomes very easy for them when tax season comes that all they have to do is pull up that spreadsheet, and they don't actually even have to fill out the majority of this tax preparation checklist because it's already documented in their bookkeeping system. You can create a system like that yourself or use things like QuickBooks, but make sure that you are documenting everything that's necessary for taxes in case of an audit. That information I share in some of my other YouTube videos, so make sure to check those out as well. But then I want you to take a quick assessment and ask yourself, do you want to have access to these exclusive tracking systems that my 5-minute bookkeeping students get? So whether you are tracking expenses or mileage, you want it to automatically calculate your deductions. All that information is available in one simple tracking system. You don't have to know accounting. You don't have to know bookkeeping. All you have to know is how to copy information from a receipt, essentially. Just look through this list quickly. If you answered yes to any of these questions, then go and visit jillgockel.com/5-minute method, where you can learn about the 5-minute bookkeeping course and enjoy all of the benefits listed above. Remember, if you'd like to have a printable version of this for just $8, you can download it using the links in the description below. And if you are just pausing this video and copying down the information to use on your own, then make sure to grab my free ultimate tax deduction cheat sheet that will give you a real quick breakdown of the general tax deduction categories that you can use when filing your taxes. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to like it, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. And if you're looking for more tips on filing taxes and small business bookkeeping, make sure to watch this video or check out my Bookkeeping 101 playlist.